What's up, everybody, and welcome in. It is Saturday. It is the college basketball content, and I am your host, Jeff Nadeau, a.k.a. the Big Man on Campus. We are live on one of the final big Saturdays of the season. Obviously, next week, conference tournaments are already getting started. It's March, baby. It's time to go. We got a lot of games today. This is an interesting Saturday because you have a lot of games that really don't mean a whole hell of a lot, right? You have to pick and choose what teams are on the bubble, what teams need a win, what teams are close but not close enough. There's all sorts of things you need to look at today, and I'll try to help you all out here with some of my favorite thoughts on this card. I hope you're having a great Saturday morning. It is a rainy one here. It's supposed to clear up a little bit later, which is good. I hope you're having a good morning wherever you are. We are live on Pub Sports Radio. If you're new here, please make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you enjoy the show, please hit that like button. And I want to remind all of you, it is a big day in the world of sports today. You got a lot going on, got a lot of hoops. You got UFC much later. You get a big horse racing card today, Aqueduct, Gulfstream. If that's something you're into, I know there's a stream right after me. Give me the bag, razor sharp picks, good guys, good horse betting people. Make sure you go check them out. In fact, I was on Razor earlier this week. I hit a big pick 4 at Parks, one of my favorite tracks. So make sure you check that out. Got a lot going on, a Gotham Stakes Day, all sorts of other stuff. So make sure if you enjoy that kind of stuff, you check it out and keeping it locked to Pub Sports Radio all day. All right. What's happening, everybody? How we doing today? How's it going? Got a couple of big games today, some revenge angles today for a team like Gonzaga. You got some games where, just kind of jockeying for position, big spots for ranked teams. You got rematches. Obviously, Alabama's going to play Tennessee. That's a great game. So a lot of things to get to. Let's get after it. Raymond Ricard, Ian Shaber, Justin, Smoke and Mirrors, William, Big T, Martin Jordan, Mr. Vape, Bill, Joey. What's up? How's everybody doing today? Also, at the end, you see on the side, it says questions. I will take yours. So feel free to get them in your head, start getting them out there and throwing them in the chat. If you're going to throw one in the chat, just do me a favor. Throw in the opponent, the line, if you can. It's all very helpful. There's a lot of games today. I don't have every single idea or who a team's playing. Also, injuries. We'll have to keep track of that. There's concern that Tyler Kolek might not play today for Marquette in a big road match up at Creighton. All right, let's get into it. First games first. I go all over the board in college basketball, and we're going to start with a game in the America East. It is UMass Lowell, and it is Vermont. Vermont, the Catamounts, as usual, have run through this conference. They are really every year the best team in this conference, and that's no different this year. They are going to essentially, I believe today, tie this conference up. This is a big game. Vermont, I want to say, has won this conference. They're 2 games back or 2 games above with 2 games to go. But this will kind of strengthen it. They're at home. But you look at this matchup itself, okay? I actually bet on UMass Lowell in the first matchup in this game. UMass Lowell really struggled in this game. And it really took until late where they kind of got their ass in order and in gear, and it was just too late. The game went to overtime, and Vermont won by 7 in Lowell. You look at Vermont, though. They jumped out to a 14-5 lead. Lowell kind of rallied. The problem for Lowell is couldn't make any shots. They really missed Coulibaly in that game, and they just couldn't run the tempo they want to run. Vermont is going to slow every team in this conference down. It's what they do. It's their MO. It's what John Becker does in the half court. You're not going to do what you want to do. You're going to do what we want to do. And these teams like Bryant and Lowell and groups like that just can't get into the tempo they want to run. They want to run up and down, very transition reliant. You also look at Lowell. I mean, when you can get this team into the half court, they can't defend. And that's concerning against a team like Vermont, who has really good kids at the guard spot that can create offense, get their bigs involved, kick the ball out. They're good shooters in the half court. Throw in the fact that Vermont's at home here. I think this is a great spot for the Catamounts to just continue kind of their destruction of this conference, of this group. You also look at Lowell. A lot of their offense comes from second chance opportunities. Vermont don't give you anything on that. So for me, I felt like Vermont was a great play. Nasty Nate's his first half Vermont. Yeah, I think any way you play it, that's good as well. Vermont has been, over the last couple of years in this conference, Vermont is one of the best teams in the country against conference opponents against the spread. They just get the job done in games like this. And again, if you play fast, I'm always going to bet against you when it comes to Vermont because they just don't let you run what you want to do. So getting them out of transition is the goal, and I think Vermont can do it. And you look at against every team in this conference. The only team they lost to in this conference was NJIT, who, weirdly enough, are one of the only teams that don't run tempo in this conference. But you look at against Bryant. They held Bryant to 57-48 this year. I mean, Bryant, that's one of the more transition-reliant offenses in the country. So for me, I have a hard time, not betting Vermont in these types of games. I also want to just say one other thing, and this is kind of interesting. So there's a metric called, field goal defense non-transition. Okay, so what is your field goal percentage when you're not in transition? So in the half court, can you guard straight up? I mean, Lowell is a disaster in that metric. They're one of the worst teams in the country. They just can't guard. I mean, it's bad. You look at a team like St. Mary's. They're one of the best in the half court defensively in America. When you look at Lowell, I mean, they're in the bottom 30 in that metric. Just a bad defensive team, and that's concerning against a team like Vermont. So let's move on to the next one here. Kong's Clip says, "Let's get this cash, my brother. Appreciate you." What up, Kongs? How you doing, man? Yeah, shout out to you, man. Good luck. Donald Plachaki, what's going on? King Ooh, what's up? What's happening? Joey B, Taryn Long. We will highlight that one. Oklahoma's in the big spots. It's TC. If you like Houston, you're kind of missing out on your number there. That one continues to rise. Coin, what's happening? All right, let's get to the Big 12. Iowa State and UCF. By the way, last week, I think I was 3-2 on the show, and I want to say it involved Iowa State. Seems like a forever ago, week to week. Iowa State, though, headed to take on UCF. This game's at home, I believe. No, it's not. No, it's not. I'm sorry. Iowa State's going to UCF. Here's the thing. I mean, whenever I look at an Iowa State game, I look at their opponent and I say, okay, what did that opponent do against Houston? I've said this before. Iowa State and Houston play a very similar defensive game, right? They swarm the ball handler right at the half court and make it very difficult on you in the half court, right? Turn the ball over. And if you can't score efficiently, it can get ugly. And I think we can characterize as UCF as a team that can't score efficiently. This has been the worst offense in this conference. They don't have a Taylor Hendricks like they've had in years past. They turn the ball over a lot. I mean, they're not Kansas State turn the ball over a lot, but they turn the ball over a lot. They also try to negate their poor offense with offensive rebounding. That's just not going to work against really good top 10 teams. And you look at what UCF did against Houston, 42. Ugly. This was an ugly, ugly, ugly performance against Houston. I mean, think about this, guys. This is amazing. I don't know if we talked enough about how bad UCF's performance was against Houston. They only scored 42. They only made 3 two-point field goals in the whole game. Think about that. In 40 minutes of basketball, they made 3 two-point baskets. It's like me playing against Houston. I wouldn't make any, but 3? What is this, a fucking intramural game? 3. That's hard to understand. They were 3 for 23 from 2 and 4 for 21 from 3. How did they even score 42 points? Well, I'll tell you. They went to the free throw line 33 times. And they actually made 24 free throws. So out of their 42 points, 24 were free throws. And that's unbelievable. It doesn't bode extremely well here if you're Iowa or if you're UCF. Now you got to play Iowa State, who is just as difficult defensively. And I got to tell you, I like this. I like this Iowa State team on offense. Look, I know they're not the most flashy in the world. I'm not going to tell you this is the best offense in the Big 12 by any means, but I mean, they're still pretty good. I mean, I like Taman Lindsay a lot. Keyshawn Gilbert's played pretty well for them. Good assist man, a guy that's going to kind of be your typical point guard. Trey King on the wing, he's been good for this group. He's had a couple of games, the EKU transfer. I like how this team's positioned. Throw in the fact that Mamlakovic has been electric for them. He's made some big shots for this team. Not going to beat the door down offensively, but they're just a solid team. I like Iowa State here on the road. I think they get the job done. I think they just clamp down on UCF. If you're Iowa State, the goal, I think, of your team at this point, I mean, this is the top 10 team in the country. This is a team that, isn't going to get to that number 1 seed line, but I think your goal is to get as high as possible, continue to make sure games like this aren't a problem for you. And in this conference, you got to go and win on the road. This team is win on the road. I mean, they went and won at Texas. They went and won at Cincinnati. They went and won at TCU. Look, we know it's not easy on the road, but I'm going to lay the number here in a spot that I think Iowa State is significantly better than UCF. I also don't know that I give UCF that much credence to their home court advantage. I don't know. By Big 12 standards, I don't think it's that good. So I'm going to lay it with Iowa State here. So 2 plays out of the gate, I'm laying numbers. 1 home team, 1 road team. Let's get into the third game. And I have to say, poor job on the spelling on the ticker by our boy Jose. He spells it Nicholes, but then he spells it right in the thing. All good. We don't care about spelling. Whatever. We know what we're doing here. We get it. Nicholls State at McNeese. I've talked about McNeese, guys. I really like McNeese. I think this team is a group you have to keep an eye on in the NCAA tournament if they get there. They have completely steamrolled this conference, including Nicholls, who they beat by 27 the first time, 74-47. McNeese State is full of high D1 transfers that came down to Louisiana to play for Will Wade, who should be at a high-level D1 institution. However, he is being railroaded by the corrupt and mafia-like NCAA and not allowed to coach. That said, he's a big favorite today against Nicholls. There are a couple of games left in the Southland. McNeese pretty much has this conference won. They just need to put the cherry on top today with a win against Nicholls, who is, I guess you could say, the second best team in this conference. Look, this conference is quite simple. Over the years, you can kind of figure out what these conferences are. The Southland Conference is a conference that generally is very downhill, get to the basket, get to the free throw line, similar to the Sun Belt, the MEAC. But Nicholls over the years has been able to kind of bother teams with turning you over. They're generally a good 3-point defense, but against McNeese, I have a hard time believing they're going to get any stops in this game. No one has really stopped McNeese all year. They have been a complete tank on offense. I also look at the first game these two teams played. I think McNeese is good defensively. Are they great defensively? No. First time these guys played, Nicholls didn't play that bad offensively. They actually shot the ball okay. Problem is they had 21 turnovers. I don't think that happens again. I think they probably score a lot more efficiently in this game. I think this is a put your head down type of game and attack. I think Nicholls can create at the free throw line. A lot of these teams in the lower D1, they struggle to defend without fouling. We could see a lot of free throws in this game. I'm going to lean on the over in this one. I think it's a little too low with a tank like McNeese on offense, with a Nicholls team that I think is going to be down in this game and is going to have to go. They're going to have to try to score efficiently. I don't think they can stop McNeese. I think 143 is a little low. I think we look at this first game and think, 74-47. I think Nicholls is a lot more efficient in this one. You are also paying a premium at this point to bet on McNeese State. I mean, this number, I would have probably put it closer to 15. I mean, you're up towards 20 with this one. Do I have the balls to bet Nicholls? No, I don't, because McNeese has been that dominant in this conference. And again, I don't think this is the Nicholls team of like a year or two ago. They may be able to win this type of game, but I'm going to just lean on the over. I think if you like Nicholls, you lean on the over because McNeese is going to score, right? So I'm going to lean over 143.5 in this one. Guys, do me a favor. We got one or two more games here, and then we're going to get into your questions. Please drop them now in the chat so we can start accumulating them, and then we would just start banging them out here. We're not going to be on too terribly long today. I'm not going to go to 11:30 because we do have another show. I'm going to stay on to about 11:15. So let's bang out a couple of games here. We got to compact this. We'll get to the next show here on Pub Sports Radio. I don't want to overlap. This is the nice new. Maybe I want everybody to feel it. Not that people aren't going to go watch other shows. I'm sure people will go watch. If that's what they want to do. All right, Houston, Oklahoma. Houston, Oklahoma. Big game here today. This number has, as the chat said, moved a little bit. There are sevens that are popping up on Houston, and I get it, right? Houston's been pretty good on the road in this conference. They've been in pretty good atmospheres. Houston's a machine. Houston is a machine. At 7, it's getting a little high for me. One thing that I've noticed about Houston is some of their games have gotten out of hand with fouls. They push their games over the total a lot of the time. That said, we're at 130.5. I like the under at 128.5. Again, it's kind of the same rinse repeat. So when I see Houston playing a game, I say, okay, have they played their opponent? And if the answer is no, I say, okay, well, how did their opponent do against Cincinnati? Or not to say, Iowa State. And I say, oh, interesting. Oklahoma just played Iowa State. And guess what happened? Oklahoma only scored 45 points, 58-45. So I said, interesting. Now they got to play a back-to-back against Houston. Christ, scheduling didn't do them any favors here. This is a rough back-to-back if you're Oklahoma. They didn't pass the first test. Maybe we have to realize, guys, for just a second, maybe that Oklahoma is just not that great. Look, they're in the NCAA tournament, but they're falling fast. This game ain't going to hurt them if they lose. It could really help them, though. That said, I think if Oklahoma competes in this game, it's going to have to be on the defensive end. These two teams are snails. We know Houston is a snail, but we've noticed that on offense this year in conference, Houston has been really slow, and Oklahoma's been damn slow too. This is a good defensive team if you're Oklahoma. Are they a top 10 defense? No, but I think they're surely a top 25 defense. Porter Moser still brings those principles from Loyola. They have good long kids on their perimeter, and they can rebound decently, which is something you need to do. You have to kind of negate that so Houston doesn't completely maul you on the rebounds on the glass, because they can. They're a very good offensive rebounding team. I've gotten beat a little bit in these spots with Houston just because the one knock on this Houston defense, number one in defensive efficiency, we know how dominant they are. However, 314th nationally and 13th in this conference in free throw attempts to field goal attempts on defense. So what is that telling us? Fouling a lot. And that's what's killed people in these unders. That said, I'm going to buy here. I'm going to buy another under with Houston. I've seen the spots every time where the foul calls just get out of control. I like this spot. I think both these teams, very half court, very snail-like. I think this could be like, I don't know, 66-58 or something. It's going to be close. But 130.5, I think is a little too high for me. Like I said, I liked it at 128.5. Oklahoma could completely be blitzed here. We know how dominant Houston can be. And the real thing for them is, can Oklahoma hold on to the ball? 229th nationally in turnover percentage. Not great. Not great. And what I like about Houston a lot of the time is when they turn you over, they aren't live ball like fast break that leads to points. It's turning you over and then they slow it down and create their own possession. If you can understand, like I don't like the run out turnovers where you turn it over and go and score right away. That kills unders. We like turnovers, but as long as it's like the perfect turnover with an under is you're at like the 6-second mark and you have to like really go quick and score and you turn it over. And then that group that turns you over slows it down and walks it up. That's going to be great for our unders. Bleeding clock, bleeding clock, bleeding clock. Razor sharp pick. Shout out to you, my friend. Good luck today as well. Dabby Cab, what's up, my man? One more here. Gonzaga and St. Mary's. Get a load of this fucking game. Holy shit. Gonzaga and St. Mary's. I'm just going to say it. I like the Bulldogs here. I know it's a road game. I know St. Mary's already won. But this is a big game for Gonzaga. You win this game, I think you've stamped your ticket. Throw in the fact St. Mary's doesn't have Jefferson, who was huge in the first game for this team. Huge. With a capital H, capital U, capital G, capital E. Huge against Gonzaga in the first one. He's not playing today. We also have to look back. Anytime a team plays a team the first time, we have to say to ourselves, okay, how did that team not win the game? I got to tell you, I was blown away Gonzaga didn't beat St. Mary's the first time. They were, for the most part, the better team in the game until the final, let's say, 7-8 minutes, which is the guts of the game, and you got to be better. Gonzaga ended up losing 64-62. Let's go back to that game. I mentioned Josh Jefferson. He played the entire game. He had 16 points, 10 defensive rebounds, and 4 assists. He was the big man on campus for St. Mary's. Not playing today. Take him out of it. Number 2, what did Gonzaga do for the three-point line? 3 for 14, 21%. Probably not going to happen again. We have to realize over the last calendar month, there are a few teams that have been better offensively than Gonzaga. They're shooting the ball better. They've gotten the ball to EK. Their rim offense has been awesome. This team is firing on all cylinders, and I think are very dangerous if they get to the NCAA tournament because they're playing well at the right time. Throw in the fact it's a revenge game, and they're getting points against their rival without one of their best players. Give me the Zags. Bulldogs, bang, 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 plus 2.5. Nasty Nate says fans are going to have the amp rocking today. What is the amp? I believe that's Providence. Is that Mika? Right, Mika Mutual Pavilion amp. Okay, got it. Duncan Donut Center. We know. Let's start with that game. I think this is an interesting one, right? Because both these teams are on the bubble squarely. They both need wins. Big revenge game for Providence. By the way, before we get to that, let me just revert back to my 5 games. I like Vermont minus 7.5. I like Iowa State minus 4. I like McNeese Nicholls over 143.5. I like Houston, Oklahoma under 130.5. And I like Gonzaga plus 2.5. Your questions. We'll start with Providence and Villanova. First game these two teams played was an ugly one. Providence really struggled. They only scored 50 points. Villanova couldn't miss in that game. It was just a bad shooting night for Providence. I think they're better than Villanova. I really do. I'm a big Oduru guy. I like the kid a lot. I think he's a really dynamic player and one of those really underrated kids that, maybe doesn't, he's not like the sexy, basketball player. He doesn't do anything that's really going to blow you away, but he's just a solid Division I big. I like him a lot. We know Providence, isn't the most gifted offensive team, but they, get their stops. That's they're blue collar, kind of in the half court, kind of take you out of the game. And look, they get to the free throw line, which is kind of helpful. Look, they're way better at home than they are on the road. This is essentially a flip game, big game for both teams. I lean Providence here. I think it's a tough one, but. I lean Providence. Daniel says, what about Creighton and Marquette? Well, listen, you missed the boat on this one. If you didn't get Creighton at 4, 3.5, now you're betting it at 6. Look, basketball is all about foreshadowing a lot of the time, line wise. Where do you see the number going? Tyler Kolek's out. He ain't going to play today for Marquette. Creighton is a lead at home. We all know that. It's hard to bet their games because, again, if they're not making threes, it could be ugly. And we've seen teams play well without certain players. I'm not saying that just because Tyler Kolek's out, now immediately Marquette's going to go into the doldrums and struggle. Marquette's still really good, and Creighton is still very dependent on threes. If they're going in, they'll win. If they're not, they're going to lose. This is a Marquette defense that is a pretty good perimeter defense. They're going to kind of run you off the three-point line. I don't know. I have a hard time betting against Creighton at home at this point. I thought they were in a tough spot against Seton Hall. Seton Hall's tough. They buried them. Is Creighton at the point now where you just auto bet them at home? You talk about a great atmosphere. That's a good one down there. So yeah, I guess without Kolek, you definitely lean Creighton, but you're betting it at the worst price, unfortunately. And that's something that I don't want to do on a regular basis. Justin McElvey says, I like TCU +7. TCU +7. Yeah, that seemed like a shootout to me. I've said before, I hate TCU. I just can't seem to ever get them right. You bet on them. They can't do anything. They go 3 for 30 from 3. They can't get any stops. I bet against them. They can't miss. I still go back to that game against K-State. In K-State, fucking Jameer Nelson, a guy that can't make 30% off all year for 3, bangs a 3 at the buzzer and I lose. I just can't figure TCU out for the life of me. I wish you luck. I won't be on it. What's my favorite over of the day? The one I gave I like. I think a couple other good overs. This is probably a good over game. Both these teams very efficient. We know BYU is a team that, say what you want about them on defense, which we'll say what we want. They're not good, but they're really good on offense. They run a nice pace. Mark Pope's always looking to run the score up. And TCU is a downhill, get to the line hoop team as well. So I like the over in that one. That's another good one. Thoughts on Wisconsin, Illinois? No interest. Couldn't care less about this game. I think Illinois is really good. That said, they're on the road. I don't like Big Ten road teams. I don't want to back Illinois or Wisconsin either. I just don't like Wisconsin. I don't think this is a vintage defense in this team. I'm not a big fan of some of their bigs, and it seems like in every big game they can't shoot. Like every time I look at their box score, they're like 3 for 18 from 3. Yep, no interest. I think sometimes we glom on and just assume Wisconsin will be fine and they're good and they're great, but I don't see it. I don't think they're very good. I think their tail of the tape has kind of shown that. I guess if you're going to back them, it's at home. It's kind of a circle the wagons spot for Wisconsin, but my advice is don't put money on average to bad teams. I think this could constitute as an average to bad team. What teams are in must-win spots for tourney? Well, listen, I think Oklahoma is getting closer to the bubble. Virginia desperately needs a big win at Duke, which is going to be difficult. Gonzaga, win today would put them into the tournament. New Mexico, they're on the bubble. At Boise, Providence, we mentioned them. Villanova, they're playing each other. I think as far as must win for both teams, I don't know if there's a bigger game as far as a bubble game than that one. Both those teams desperately need a win. I don't know. You throw an A&M. They could use a big win. I have them as one of the first 8 teams out. They need a win. Ole Miss, Iowa, K-State. And if you're a big type of team, you can't afford to lose. Look, if you're a Florida Atlantic, you got to continue. You can't lose these games continuously, time and time again. Look, Florida Atlantic's in. I'm not going to tell you they're not, but their at-large case is they've had some bad losses there. My boy Wes Rowe, what's up, my man? He says, thoughts on Duke UVA. Listen, UVA away from home is a disaster. I mean, I can't really co-sign anything with that group. This is your typical clash in styles. I mean, Duke wants to play a little bit more fast. We know Virginia's super slow. I'd have to go back to last year, the last time these teams played. I think it was low 130s they got to. I'm never going to lean on an over in a Virginia game. It's just so hard to go over. I mean, they don't have a lot of possessions. This team offensively is really, really bad at times. Outside of Reese Beekman, who can score on this team? And defensively, they're always pretty good. And they're going to drain the shot clock on offense, and they're going to make you drain the clock on defense. It's just very hard to play overs with them. I mean, game last year went to overtime between these two teams. It still only got to 131 or like 130. So how do you bet the over in this game? All right. Jeff, what are your thoughts on Florida, South Carolina? I like the under. I liked it at 146.5. It is now down to 144.5. I've talked about this. If you're South Carolina, we've seen what they do. They completely take you out of running up and down. They did it Kentucky. They did it to Tennessee. And I think they'll do it to Florida. Florida plays a drop coverage, makes it difficult to score on. You got to be able to hit jump shots. I'm not sure South Carolina can do that efficiently either. And the numbers agreed. It's went down here. I still think there's a little meat on the bone. I don't think either of these teams get to 70. I think this game is played in the 60s. I could see maybe one team getting to 70, but I don't see another. I didn't see the 78, 74. I saw it more at like 69, 62. 71, 66. I think 144.5 is too high. All right. What are your thoughts on the Tennessee game tonight? I think the over 170.5. Yeah, I'm not so sure. And I'll tell you why. I know the other night Tennessee didn't look great on defense. That was just one of those back and forth type games. A lot of good shot making in that game. Dalton Knecht went crazy. But Alabama has over the years struggled with Tennessee on the perimeter. Tennessee's good defensively. And I don't know if they can stop Knecht. I mean, Alabama is bad on defense, like real bad. Like that game against Kentucky was a joke, like a complete joke. I mean, they can't stop anybody. 5 listeners can score against Alabama. This team sucks on defense. I lean Tennessee. Over's high. 170 is a lot, man. And Tennessee, I think if you're off that poor performance, it is hard to bet an under with Alabama. I get what you're saying. You're kind of going with the fact that we have a lot of good players in this game, a lot of high-end scores, Knecht and Sears and Nelson and all these different guys. But Tennessee is good on the perimeter defensively. They could really kind of maybe just take the air out of the ball a little bit in this one and really just kind of knock them off the three-point line. If you can knock Alabama off the three-point line, that's going to be key. And Tennessee's been great this year. Opponents only shooting 31% from three against them. First time these two teams played, it got to 162, and Tennessee scored 91. Alabama just couldn't make any shots. You look at them, 4 for 21 from three. What did I just say? Tennessee is going to throw you and run you off the line. They have good perimeter defenders, big, long kids. I think this is too high. 170 is too high. Could I see it getting to 165? Maybe. But you need a lot to go right to get to 170. Look at that game last night between Queens and Kennesaw. That game was like 91-86 or something, and this game still went under. Let me go back to that. Like, it was a crazy high. The total was like 178. The game was 91-82, and it still went under. It got to 173, and it still went under. That's nuts. Sometimes these totals are just too high. First game, 162. All right. I'm kind of just picking random questions here. Big T says, any thoughts on Northwestern? Guys, listen, I'm going to say this. If you're asking about a Big Ten game, just lean the home team. That's always going to be my thought there. Northwestern at home is just way better than they are on the road. And that's all I can really say. Throw in the fact that we know Iowa is very bad defensively as usual. It's a clash of styles too. Northwestern wants to play super slow. Iowa wants to play super fast. I was on the road. Yeah, lean Northwestern. Lean Northwestern there. Kansas against Baylor. This number was 4.5. It's now 5.5. So obviously the home team, a lot of people are buying in. We have a lot of recency bias. That's most bettors in America. They think, what did I just see? The last thing that bettors saw was Baylor last Saturday, right in that game against Houston. Now they're a 5.5-point favorite against Kansas. Is this a little too high? What is Kansas, though, without Kevin McCullough? I don't know. They're not deep, and that's the problem. They just ran out of gas the other night. That's the truth. They were up 41-29, guys, with 18 minutes to go. And what did we see over the final 18 minutes? We saw Brigham Young score 45 points and completely take control of the game and win by 8. They just had more bodies. This is a problem for Bill Self. I think if you like Kansas, maybe you just assume that they keep it close at halftime. I can't bet them in a full game right now. I don't think they have enough bodies. Look at this rotation. I mean, who do you go to really at this point? I mean, outside of your starting five, who do you go to? Oh, Marco Jackson, maybe? But outside of that, what the hell do you have here? They just got blitzed over the final 10 minutes, 28-17 over the final 10 minutes. They ran out of gas. Now you got another road game here against a Baylor team who's hopped up right now. Baylor's playing great basketball. We're starting to hear, oh, Baylor, their team maybe you want to look out for. And what did they do after Houston? Well, they followed it up with a nice home win and an elite defensive performance against TCU. I think the market's right on this one. 4.5 to 5.5. Maybe the first half if you like Kansas. You just hope that you get a solid 20 minutes out of this team because I think starting 5, you're good, right? You're going to get that burst. But you start getting into the guts of the game, 9 minutes to go. I mean, you start losing your leg. It's like a horse race. I think in this case, Kansas is the front runner at the far turn. It's like 7-8 to 1. And you're thinking, okay, beautiful, big price. Then the strides get shorter and shorter. And that 6 to 5 catches up and blows by in the final 16th. I just think they just don't have a bench. That's an issue for Bill. And they better hope McCullough's injury is not, super long term. All right. Robert Franklin's asking about Chattanooga, Western Carolina. I'm not betting that conference. I think this is the last game of that conference this season. It's already been decided. Sanford's the winner of this conference. This is a conference I would completely skip over today. No interest in the SoCo. That conference tournament's getting started. Just focus on that. He also asked about Minnesota. Yeah, I'm not interested. I know we want to jump out and say, look, Minnesota's, and I've talked about it. They're the best team in the country against the spread. That said, a lot of those games are as underdog. I don't want to bet them as a favorite. I just don't. I faded them as a favorite recently, and I'd probably do it again here. I'm not going to say that Minnesota isn't a solid team, but their metrics aren't great. They don't blow me away offensively. They don't make free throws, and they're not great defensively. Penn State's actually playing okay right now to me, at least given the circumstances. They beat Illinois, as we know, beat Indiana, and did lose to Iowa in a high-scoring game, but I don't have much issue there. 6 is a little high. I'm not saying they won't cover. It's hard to bet against Minnesota. I'm just saying I like them more in an underdog role, not in a favorite role. And I'm going to do a couple of more, guys, and then we're going to get out of here. What are my thoughts on Kentucky, Arkansas? Real Deal Prime says, well, listen, I think we just have to just assume that Arkansas is not good. I mean, you feel like they'll win a game or two and you think, okay, hold on, maybe Musk's got something here. Maybe he'll just turn it up. We have to realize at this point, unless Arkansas wins the SEC tournament, which I think is unlikely, this team may go on to the tournament. They're not like a team that we just Oh, they're in because they're in. No, they're not in the tournament. They have no shot other than winning the NCAA tournament. None. They could win this game today and still wouldn't have a shot. That's your issue with Arkansas. They've had no consistency all year, and I think this is the worst coaching job of Musselman in a long time. This is his worst coaching job. He has done nothing well with this team. He can't get the starting five correct. He's had injuries per usual, and that's not his fault. But they've had some inner team stuff that we've heard about, which may or may not be true. But here's the thing about rumors, guys. Sometimes rumors, most people don't get rumors made up about them, right? They just don't happen. But you have to think the rumors started somewhere. Maybe there's some sort of truth, isn't there? That said, there's still, I think, some reasons to believe some of these things. This team has been lost. They can't defend. Again, they have so many kids. They don't even know what their starting lineup is. The consistency is a complete mess. I mean, do you want to bet on a team like that? Because I don't. Kentucky is nasty on offense. And you get the ball rolling quick, it could get ugly. I think Arkansas in the first game, I think a lot of people look at that and say, well, Arkansas kind of kept it close, 63-57, but Kentucky just didn't make much, I don't know. I want to believe, and I wanted to believe in Arkansas, but I think at this point, you just have to believe they're not good, Robert Franklin's asked him at High Point Longwood, another conference I have no interest in today. That conference, I believe, has been decided as well. That said, I thought Longwood at maybe 4 was worth a look. Longwood's pretty decent, but I didn't really look much into that conference today. I think you really have to kind of narrow your card down and stay away from some of these games. Minnesota, Emza says they're 12-1 as a favorite. Yeah, but how many of those games are out of conference? Listen, good luck. I just don't want to do it personally. That's all. I think 6 is high. I'd really like to look more into those, what games they were a favorite in and how many was it as 3-point or less favorites. 6 is a lot. You have to win by 10 to feel comfortable about your bet. It's a whole lot different. Matter of fact, here's what we're going to do. I want to just, before we go, I want to take a look at Minnesota as a favorite. And I want to see how many games they were a favorite of 6 or more. And did they cover in those games? Let's just go to in conference. They were a favorite of 5.5 against Rutgers. They covered that one. But previous to that game was on February 18th. So they've been a favorite February 18th and the 22nd, recent games. Before that, though, they hadn't been a favorite since January 15th. A game as a 3-point favorite. They lost 86-77. That was way back. They lost the game. They were a 1.5-point favorite against Maryland. They won by 3. And then, again, all of their wins as a favorite. This is why, Emza, that is a skewed stat. It's a very skewed stat. They have not been a favorite much at all in this conference. In fact, as a favorite in this conference, they were a 1.5-point favorite. But let's look at a few others. Nebraska, they were a dog. I mean, all their wins as favorites came in the non-con. Ball State, Maine, Bethune-Cookman, UTSA, Upstate, Pine Bluff, New Orleans. I mean, a bunch of nonsense. Everybody covers as a favorite against those teams. That is a skewed stat. No offense. And this is why I don't want to bet them laying 6. They could cover and win by 10. It's just not a situation I want to do it because they haven't been it very often. They aren't a favorite in this conference much. That's just the truth. That is a fact. All right. Nunya says, I'm focusing on NCAA basketball and UFC. Let me know if you have an NHL spot. I'll tell. There you go. So I think Nut Flush is focusing on NHL. What's up, Nut Flush Allen? All right, guys, let's wrap this thing up. We got other shows that are on. We got horse racing getting started here. I don't want to stay on too terribly long. We've been on here for about 45 minutes. Good, solid show. And I'd urge you, after you leave here, go check out the horse racing show today with Jimmy and with Razor and with several other people. 5 plays for me today. just 5. I like Vermont -7.5. Iowa State -4. Nicholls and McNeese over 143.5. Houston, Oklahoma under 130.5. And Gonzaga +2.5 against St. Mary's. Thank you all for watching. Have a great day. Enjoy basketball. Enjoy the day. We're in March, baby. The madness is here. Thank you for watching. Hit that like button on your way out. Subscribe if you're new here. And go check out all the great programming here at Pub Search Radio.